Hi, listeners. This is Anna Kaszycki, world champion rower with 3 international degrees, and now youth coach and mentor. This is the Aspire Beyond Greatness podcast, where I share inspiring individual stories to empower you to achieve your goals and future life pursuits. If you enjoyed the podcast today, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Head to my Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Anna Kaszycki. Have an exceptional day, and remember, go after what you want. Today we have a very special guest on the Aspire Beyond Greatness podcast. Her name is Sue Lester, and she is the author of The Face Within: How to Change Your Unconscious Blueprint. And she's also Australia's leading expert in optimizing unconscious blueprints. She is a mindset coach and healer, and she's currently in the process of writing her second book, Answering the Call to Adventure. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sue.
Thanks for having me, Anna, and hi to everyone listening.
As you know, this is all about talking to our younger audience who are still, obviously figuring themselves out. And I would love for you to think back to that time. And if you had one piece of advice, what advice would you give to your 14-year-old self?
You don't have to be a young person to be trying to work out who you are. I work with people into their 70s, and so many are still wondering what their purpose is. So I remind my 14-year-old self that your purpose is to be the very best you can be. Not try and copy anyone else, just, be you, the very, very best you can be.
Yeah, perfect, right? Because you can't be anyone else. That's
you're all
Awesome. And is there anything in that, other than from your, the people that you're working with, that you would kind of go off of that? Do you think that message has resonated with you at some point as well?
Oh, definitely. I've reinvented myself several times throughout my working history. When I was really little, I always wanted to be a teacher. I used to set my dolls up and borrow my older brother's maths book and teach them maths on the blackboard and do that. And I did end up becoming a teacher, but it didn't fulfill everything I needed and wanted out of a career. So I kept reinventing myself, looking for the answer for myself, basically. And it was about 11 years ago, which was quite a way into my journey. I've forgotten how old I am now. I'm 56 now. So 11 years ago, I finally came across something that fulfilled all the things I wanted to do in my life: traveling, teaching, writing, making a difference. Mm-hmm. And so I studied the neuroscience and neurolinguistic programming and all sorts of other techniques and modalities to create a business which is basically living my purpose. But it took me ages, like quite a few years, to get to that point. I made lots of mistakes and stumbles along the way. It's worth it. And I noticed that some people get really caught up, particularly at school, when there's a lot of pressure on, what are you going to do with your life? Mm. So just know that, choose something, and just know that, yes, you're allowed to change after a while if it doesn't end up being the right thing. It's easier to actually make changes when you're moving than if you're stuck. You think of trying to push a car. It's much easier to keep a car rolling if it's already moving, as opposed to dead stop and then trying to push.
Definitely.
Yeah, so you don't have to choose the one right thing for the rest of your life. I mean, that's the old way, like with your parents, grandparents, for them, you got a job for life and didn't move out of that career. But now everyone shifts and changes because as you grow and learn and evolve, of course you want to do different things.
It's the beauty of life almost, isn't it? Having choice and being able to decide the things that you want to do. And I think that's a really good message for young people, when they're in school and there's a lot of pressure to choose what subjects you want to do and what university degree you have to go into, or, if you want to do something else, what's that going to be? But you don't have to decide right away.
You don't have to decide right away what you're going to do for the whole of your life. You do need to make a decision though.
Yeah. For the next step, and then let the journey take.
Yeah, choice can be overwhelming, as in when you've got so many choices, it's easy to get tied up in knots thinking, well, if I choose that, what if it's the wrong choice? Or realizing, okay, if I choose that, I can't have all those other things. And yeah, you're right. But, you need to make a choice to get started and get the ball rolling. And some of the listeners will know, like when I was little, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I got sidetracked by wanting to be, I don't know, a vet at one point, but I always wanted to be a teacher basically. But I know friends of mine didn't have a clue what they wanted, but they chose something, and some of them actually still in what they chose. Unlike me, well, actually I am still teaching, but not in the classroom, not in the same way that I thought I would be doing for the rest of my life. Because you really can't see the future, but you can create the future by the actions you take in the present.
I guess this would be a good point for me to ask you, Sue. How did you decide on the career that you have?
Well, I don't know how I decided to be a teacher. I think it was because I loved my kindy teacher. I thought she was wonderful, and I loved grade 1. I loved learning, I loved reading. School was a really positive thing for me. So it seemed a natural thing to do. And then when I found out that teachers could have a year's travel leave, yeah, absolutely, that's me. I could do both. But then it was shifts and changes over time. When I was traveling overseas for a year that ended up being 3 years, then I started playing with different jobs, got into the travel industry, thinking, well, travel's my passion. I could work in travel industry, which was great for a while, but the pay's pretty crappy and high pressure. And since I was in the travel industry, things have changed a lot. People do so much on the internet now, so it's very different anyway. And I found it wasn't satisfying enough. So then I went into working for a social enterprise, a national charity who provide educational scholarships for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. And that was satisfying for a while, but once again, it just wasn't enough, and they wouldn't let me take holidays to travel when I wanted to, which is just devastating.
Yeah.
And so, and I love learning, so I was looking for other ways, different ways of doing things and different ways to expand my ability to help the people I worked with. And that's when I started studying neuro-linguistic programming, which is all about getting your conscious and your unconscious mind in alignment so your thoughts and actions match, and basically you can achieve what you want to achieve. So once I started studying that, I realized I was actually quite good at it, and I was getting great results for myself and great results for the other students that I was practicing on. And so I decided that I would start my own business and focus on doing that and helping other people make changes in their lives. So that's when I started my business. But even in the 11, 12 years that I've been running my own business, there's been shifts and changes in that. What I started doing is very different. Well, it's kind of different to what I'm doing now in terms of the people I work with and how I work. When I started, I was working in a natural therapies clinic. Now I do my work using Zoom and Skype, and I've got clients all over the world, and I do it from the comfort of my office with my cats around me.
Awesome.
So, it's lovely. Yeah, so, there's always shifts and changes. And I know that I'm not going to be doing it exactly the way I'm doing it now for the rest of my life either, because I'm continuing to grow and change and be open to new ways of doing things. I want to incorporate more travel, doing retreats overseas and that sort of thing. So I guess the only consistency in my life has been change. That makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
And so my printer just about to turn itself off. So apologies for not switching that off earlier.
That's okay. I just wanted to bring it back to the idea that you spoke about in terms of that you love learning. And I'd love you to elaborate. What is it about learning that you love?
New ideas, new concepts, new ways to improve myself, new ways to help other people. I love reading, I always have.
Do you think it's important for young people to continue to learn even after they finish school?
Oh, school doesn't teach you much at all, really. Learning starts once you leave school. And the difference is once you leave school, and it can start before while you're still at school, but you learn because you want to, because you're interested in something. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Let me find out more about that. So, and with the internet and YouTube, there's so much knowledge. TED Talks, you can tap into so much information. I mean, you have to make sure that it's actually valid, real information, not someone's talking through their hat.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much easy access to information out there. And basically, if you're not learning, you might as well be dead. Seriously. You know, it's lifelong learning, because if you're not learning, not growing, and particularly with technology changing as fast as it is, I mean, you know, the listeners have grown up with technology that was just space age stuff when I was little. You know, I can imagine having your own mobile phone and computers, and goodness.
There's a lot out there, isn't there? Yeah.
Huge. And it's just, you know, the rapid rate of change, it's just accelerating. So if you're not continually learning and keeping up with things, and being open to new ideas, new concepts, well, you really do get left behind and live a really small, boring life, basically.
So I just want to, you know, you've obviously done a lot of really interesting things, and I'm especially interested with your work in terms of blueprints and coaching and healing. Well, first of all, I'd love to know, what exactly is a blueprint?
Okay, so your unconscious blueprint is your internal image or internal picture of yourself. So we've got a conscious and an unconscious mind. So if you think of your conscious mind as being the captain on board your ship of life, and below deck is your crew or your unconscious mind. So your captain and your crew have to be in agreement for your ship to sail smoothly. Because if they're fighting, you know, your ship's going to zigzag, it's going to stall, it might turn around and go backwards. You're not going to get very far. And you've probably experienced that internal battle within. Your unconscious blueprint, if you think of that as the specifications manual, or that your crew are using to navigate and make decisions for your ship of life. Now, if that blueprint or that manual is up to date, so for example, if you're 14, you've got version 14, well and good, as long as it's an empowering one. So it's an image of you being confident, healthy, happy, that will move you forward. If it's a blueprint of you being maybe your age, but really scared and very vulnerable and, you know, curled up in the corner sucking your thumb, that's not an empowering blueprint, and that will hold you back. Or maybe it's a blueprint from when you were really little, and maybe when you were really little, that was the last time you were happy. So it's a happy image, but it's too young, doesn't serve you now. I've worked with, well, most of my coaching clients are adults, and some of them are in their 40s, but their unconscious blueprint, their internal programming, is of a 14-year-old or a 4-year-old. So it runs the show, but it can be updated quite easily and made to be more positive, more empowering.
And is that sort of the sort of work that you're doing with clients? Is it adjusting, readjusting the unconscious and conscious mind?
Yes, absolutely. And the actual blueprint, that's the first thing I look at in the first session. We make sure that that's as it should be. If it's not, we optimize it, we adjust it so it's empowering and up to date. I also help people, some people have got a lot of anger or a lot of fear in their system, and so the process is to clear that out. Some people don't believe that they're any good, that they're not enough, or they're not worthy of being happy and healthy and successful. So we need to change that, shift the beliefs at that unconscious level. So yes, I'm doing a lot of work with the captain and the crew to make sure that they're working in sync together.
Sounds like a very important job.
Well, it's my legacy. Seriously, if I work with you, I'm not just working with you, I'm working with your partner, your family, your friends, the people you work with, the people you bump into in the street. Because it's that ripple on effect, because you know yourself, if you're having a day where you're feeling happy, things go well. And you smile at people, you're friendly with people, and then things go well. But if you wake up feeling unwell or cross or cranky and you snap at this person, snap at that person, things start going wrong. Have you noticed that happens?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so it's important that you're in your personal power, and that's one thing I teach my clients about, is reclaiming their personal power so that you're in charge. Because if you're not, okay, so when I'm talking about personal power, I'm not talking about that egotistical chest beating, yay, I'm fabulous, look at me. If you're in your personal power, you're calm, you're confident, you're centered, you know who you are, you like who you are, You've got a sense of where you want to go and absolute faith in your ability to get there. Whether you have to learn something, meet new people, do things a different way, whatever it is. But you know you can do it. You'll find a way.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not living in your personal power, you allow other people to tell you what your heart says. You know, everyone else, like if you're not making choices for yourself, someone will make a choice for you. And when you're in your teens, yes, parents certainly have a role. They've got hopefully got some wisdom and experience that you can learn from.
Mm-hmm.
But you think about when you're interacting with your friends, it's really important that you're listening to what your voice inside says and not be led astray and do stupid things because the rest of the group are doing that. That's giving your personal power away to them. Anytime you make, as you say, that someone makes you angry or afraid, you're giving your personal power away to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. A really important message is to be in control of our own lives and our unconscious and conscious thoughts. And I'm sure it probably takes a bit of time, does it, to kind of readjust people's thoughts?
It depends how ready they are to change. I work with a client, you normally at an hour at a time, as in an hour session. We can make huge changes in that time. And the younger someone is, the easier it is because you've got less baggage collected. You know, you've had 14, 18, 20 years of building up fear, for example, rather than having 40 years or 60 years of building up that anxiety in your body. Actually, something's reminded me. Actually, are you a Doctor Who fan?
As in the TV show?
Yeah.
I've heard of it. I can't say I've watched it before.
Oh, okay. Do you know about the TARDIS, the time machine?
Oh, yes, yep.
Okay. So each one of us has got our own TARDIS, but it's a mental TARDIS. Mm-hmm. So we actually time travel. So we'll go back to the past and we'll relive a conversation. If you've done that, you've had a fight with someone, and then afterwards you think, oh, if only I'd said this and this and this.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Or you've gone back to the past, time travel back to the past, and maybe relived something scary or something traumatic that's happened, and then you feel sick and horrible and angry and yuck all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you've time traveled out to the future and you've imagined going somewhere, and maybe you've imagined everything going wrong. Like maybe it's a job interview and you imagine yourself being late and stumbling over your words and not knowing what to say, and I don't know, your dress tucked into your knickers, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you feel really bad. So, you know, we do it all the time. So the key to understand is be aware that we're actually time traveling and put it to good use. So when you jump in your mental TARDIS, for the past, even the past is gone, it only exists in your head now. So if you want to go back to the past, well, you go back and get learnings, or go back and remember happy things and bring that with you into the present. And if you're going out to the future, if you time travel out and scare yourself silly, there's no point doing that unless you get some learnings out of it. So just say that interview scenario, come back to the present, and then you make sure that you do everything possible to ensure that that doesn't happen. Or if it does happen, you're prepared. So in other words, you make sure you find out where the meeting is, allow plenty of travel time, make sure that your clothes and everything are ready the day before, make sure that you've got answers to possible questions already worked out, make sure you've done some research about the company and the people you'll be working with, make sure you've got some intelligent questions to ask them. You know, do your preparation so you've got more chance of the positive happen, and then time travel out to the future and see that interview going beautifully. So, you know, you turn up, you're calm, you're confident, well-dressed, you answer all their questions. They give you a tricky question and then the answer just comes to you, you're smiling, you're relaxed. You know, do that and then come back to the present.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
when we go out into the future and scare ourselves silly and then come back to the present, then you don't want to do anything that will take you closer to that scary thing happening. So if
I just have a question. As you were explaining that scenario, I was thinking of, we had to do visualization, and when I used to row, before I became a world champion, we used to sit there with the sports psychologist, and we did some visualization of how we wanted the races to turn out. And, you know, obviously we saw ourselves winning, and it happened eventually. But do you think on some level that the blueprints might be similar to the visualization?
The visualization helps you take the action you need to be successful. So the more you see yourself or more you visualize yourself as successful, then that will impact on your unconscious blueprint, because they're shifting and changing all the time too. Visualizations are crucial, and as you pointed out, in sports success, but also for job interviews, for preparing for exams, for a first date, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just visualization, it's the emotion you feel when you're visualizing it. For example, with the rowing, you didn't want to just be rowing, seeing yourself winning. You wanted to feel your muscles working beautifully and feel everyone in sync and gliding through the water and feeling excitement as you cross that finishing line first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great way of explaining it. I think emotion's a huge part of it.
Huge, because the emotions cemented in your body, into your cellular knowledge. And so it's up to you whether you're implanting positive or negative. Because when you're imagining something, your body doesn't know it's not real. Your body believes your head brain and feels it as if it's really happening. And that's why when you travel back to the past or the future and imagine something scary or you get angry, your body feels it as if you're angry or actually experiencing that abuse all over again. So you're actually hurting yourself. Like the more times you remember it and relive something negative, you're doing more harm to yourself than the person did originally.
Yeah, I think reliving those bad experiences and remembering the emotion isn't helpful at all. So,
not at all. It just compounds the pain and the angst and makes things harder for you to move forward.
I think, yeah, especially for younger people who, might be going through obviously a journey and having different experiences, for them, maybe not reliving it so much now, but as they sort of come out the other side later on, it's important for them to, as you said, kind of associate probably a more positive emotion or think of it as a lesson rather than something bad that happened.
Exactly. And just know when people do things to you, often it's not even about you. You're just a convenient punching bag because of their inadequacies and their frustrations. So it's getting that perspective and know that babies all have the same value. They all deserve love. They all deserve to be cared for, looked after, nurtured. Stuff happens in life, but that doesn't change your intrinsic, your internal value. You're still worthy of love, still worthy to be on the planet and making a success of your life, for yourself, living your purpose, being the best you possible. And, because of other people's, because when you're born, you're not born asking, does my bum look big in this nappy?
Right. Yeah.
That comes from outside of you. And you don't, little toddlers don't think, oh, I better not try and stand up because what if I fall down and what if they laugh? Well, of course, you pull yourself up, you fall back down, and that's where nappies are really good because they keep you padding.
Yeah.
Because you're cute. And, they don't, when you fell down, your parents, no matter how bad your parents were or are, they didn't say, oh, geez, we've got a dud here. He or she's never going to walk again. You just pull yourself up and you keep trying. And it's only along the way that you suddenly start doubting yourself. And that's just because of other people's opinions. And, just know they're just opinions. They're not real. They're not real unless you choose to believe them.
Definitely. And I'm interested to know, Sue, you've got a ton of lessons here in the work that you do, and I'm sure you've learnt so much about other people and just in terms of the mind even. And I'd love to know, what has been your greatest lesson?
To love myself.
And why would you say that one?
Well, because if I had loved myself, I wouldn't have ended up in an abusive relationship as an adult. So I had a loving family, but what happened is I got married very young and this might be a bit much for some of your younger viewers, but I confused orgasms with love. So I thought because the sex was fabulous, it must be love, true love. So I got married just after my 20th birthday, way too young, because it turns out we had very different views. I mean, I wanted to travel the world and he wanted to have babies. And yes, I wanted to have babies, but not then. I wanted to travel the world first. That was a passion I'd had since I was little. So, I let external things confuse what I really wanted to do. And then 6 weeks after the wedding, I met the love of my life. Talk about bad timing.
Yeah. Wow.
But it ended up not being reciprocated in the same way. He loved me as a friend, but not as, a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took that to mean that I was unlovable. So then I went off and did lots of silly things and got into lots of messy relationships. And one of them was an abusive relationship, which, was an 8-year mess. And it took me a lot to get out of there. At one point I thought, when he got a gun license and bought a gun, I really realised I needed to get out of there seriously, instead of getting out, going back, getting out, going back. Anyway, so if I loved myself and valued myself and was living my purpose, being the very best me I could be, there's no way I would have got tangled up in that mess. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's huge. And it's really important, isn't it, for young people? You might not recognize it when you're young, isn't it? But I guess, when you explain it in a way that makes sense throughout your journey, it really does sort of reflect on it a little bit. And I had abusive relationships as a child from a parent. And so it definitely, it makes you realize that it's so important to not associate how someone else treats you with your worth, even though it's obviously a lot easier said than done. And it takes time to understand it, but it is a really important message.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the key things is understanding that adults can be wrong, very, very wrong at times. When I was little, I thought that adults knew everything. They were always right because my parents told me they were always right. And I thought that when I grew up, I would know everything, be able to do everything, easy peasy. And I still remember the moment where I thought, I'm 23, I'm an adult now, and I actually don't know everything. And it was like, oh, crap, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. So, it was a real, I lost my confidence for a while then. Up to that point, I was just working on the assumption that I knew everything because I was in my 20s, but, it was a little eye-opener. So that's why that lifelong learning, continuing to allow yourself to learn and not expect yourself to be able to do anything right first go. Mm-hmm. Great if you do, but allowing yourself to learn and make mistakes, because I see people tying themselves up in knots and not actually taking a risk or pushing their boundaries and stepping out because they're worried that they might not get it right first go. And that's such a shame because there's very little. You think about everything you've learned over your life up to this point, no matter how old you are, everything, there would be very few, if anything, that you got perfectly right first go. Mm-hmm. So just allow yourself to learn and make mistakes and keep practicing until you get it right. And then once you got it right, then you can polish and improve on that.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so great. And I love the example that you gave for about the baby falling down and how your parents wouldn't say, they're not going to walk again. Obviously, it's a time to learn. And I think, embracing that more as we get older is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, you're still at school, you're still, you're allowed to learn, allowed to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And, if you're going to live a rich and fulfilling life, you'll do that all the way up to your death. You'll keep learning, make mistakes, pushing yourself, trying this, trying that. And if you don't, you miss out on so much fun. I went ziplining for my birthday.
Oh, awesome.
It was fabulous. And it was interesting to see people's reactions. You're how old and you're doing what? And people that know, oh, goodness, I'd never do that. I'm not the sort of person that would do zip lining. And I was thinking, well, that's a bit sad because it's really exhilarating. It's a bit scary, but it's great fun. And my mum always wanted to do a zip line. She died not having done it, which I always thought was a bit sad. Yeah, so,
take risks.
Yeah, calculated risks.
Yeah.
You don't want to string your own rope across the canyon and, go for it yourself. And there's safety gear and, I was with sensible people. And so, calculated risk, yes.
Definitely.
And just do it. Because until you've done something, and sometimes till you've done something a couple of times, you really actually don't know whether you love it or not.
You shared a little bit before about, a difficult time in your life and the lesson that you learned. And I have a follow-up question on that. And it is, what's your greatest setback if it's different to what you'd mentioned already?
Okay, well, as I mentioned, I'm 56. I had lots of setbacks, and they all seem pretty. Oh yeah, some have been bigger at the time. When I started my business, I didn't really have so much of a clear. Well, I didn't have a clear picture that matched who I am. It wasn't my purpose. So I bought into someone else's vision of what success should look like. And so I did everything to match that person's idea of success. And I studied everything I could get my hands on, even stuff that I actually didn't need in my business at that point. And now that I do need it, what I learnt back then is out of date. So it was a waste of time and energy. But I was buzzing around like a little blowfly doing all this stuff. And I burnt out, basically. I just depleted all of my energy, and I wasn't that well. And then I had the year of death. So we had 5 family deaths in an 18-month period.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was really shitty.
Wow, that's a lot, isn't it?
And I didn't have the resilience to handle that. So I just did a crash and burn, basically. My business ticked over because I had coaching clients on 12-month contracts, but because I wasn't continuing to grow my business, because it's an ongoing thing when you run your own business, you're always sales and marketing and bringing new people on. None of that was happening. So then my business did a crash and burn as well. So, resurrecting. So the biggest lesson out of that was, self-care, and decide for yourself what success looks like. And, when you're 14, 18, you might not know, but you'll know what makes your heart sing, what makes you happy. So it's making sure those things. And I'm a big believer in modeling. So you find someone who's doing what you want to do and look at how they achieved it. Mm-hmm. But just make sure it's a good match for your lifestyle. So the person I was modeling and buying into his version of success, for a start, he was a male. So very different. Mm-hmm. He didn't have the travel passion that I had. He didn't have the desire, and I just love my one-on-one work. Yes, I do public speaking, I run workshops, and I write books and blogs and all sorts of things, but it's the one-on-one work that I really, really love. And that sort of wasn't part of the big picture. I've also got a partner I love hanging out with. I love my cats. So yes, I want to travel, but I want a home base to come back to. So it's... Mm-hmm. I need to relearn what was important to me rather than just doing something because someone else said that's what I should be doing.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like self-care is a big part of what you learnt in that. And also, I'm assuming that it's a big part of what you do for your career as well.
Oh, absolutely. Like, if you're not looking after yourself, how far do you expect your body to go? If you're going to live to your 90 or 100, you need to be exercising. You need to be giving it the right fuel. So the right sort of food, lots of water. You need to kind, loving touch, lots of fun, lots of connection with other people. If you're not looking after yourself and like that self-love, you're not going to go very far. Mm-hmm. You do a crash and burn, and trust me, it's not pretty.
Right.
Seriously, I was feeling suicidal at one point because my body just felt like crap. I'm trying not to swear. And it was just like, it's just all too hard, too much effort. And this is me as a mindset coach. So I had all of the shame and doubt and that imposter syndrome. I mean, if you're so good at what you're doing, how come you're in such a mess? But it's all because I didn't practice what I preach. So, I wasn't doing all the things that I encourage my clients to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're going through a difficult time as well, it's you're sort of learning different tricks, I guess, in terms of looking after yourself, because you can't expect it to be 100% all the time, even if you do have those tools. But it sounds like it was difficult for you at that time, going through those things with that expectation that you have the knowledge of how to heal yourself as well.
That was another good learning out of that, was ask for help. So I actually reached out to someone when I was having suicidal thoughts, and she helped me.
Mm-hmm. So, that's good.
And it took a lot, but I trusted her because she's a mindset coach as well. I know she was in the travel industry. Actually, at one point, she rejected me for a job interview I went for.
Oh, wow. There you go.
But it turned out fine because I got a better job. So
okay.
But I trusted her, so I allowed myself to be vulnerable and explain how I was feeling. And she actually had the expertise to be able to help me. Because that's the thing, ask for help, but ask for help from people who can actually help you. Because And I was just thinking, if I told, and another person's come to mind, if I had confessed to her how I was feeling, she would have been throwing up the hands in the air, bursting into tears, going to a blubbering mess, which wouldn't have been any help to me at all. So be very careful, ask for help from people who can help you, or have the common sense be able to get you in touch with someone an expert who can help you, a professional.
Definitely. Yeah, that's great advice, especially for younger people who might feel that if you're going through something, you have to keep it all in, and that's not the case. It is important to ask help from the right people when you need it.
Yeah, otherwise it just festers like a horrible pussy boil thing, and then it'll explode and make horrible of everyone.
That sounds awful.
Well, it is. It's horrible, and that's how it feels when it's festering inside. It's hot and it's uncomfortable, and then it makes you feel sick.
Mm.
Actually, so use your body to give you hints, because your body knows what's happening. And we've actually got a head intelligence, we've got a heart intelligence, and we've got a gut intelligence. So there's a lot of information in our body, and our body talks to us. So if you ever feel pain or tension, that's usually a sign that you're time traveling. So you're either out in the past reliving something horrible, or you're out in the future scaring yourself silly, making up stories. So that's a sign. If you get that skin crawl, you know how your hair goes up on the back of your neck, or someone literally gives you the creeps, that creepy feeling?
Yeah.
Listen to that.
Yeah, listen to your gut.
Yeah. Even if everyone else around you said, oh no, he's so nice. No, you listen to your own intuition. You listen to what your body's telling you and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, that's a really good lesson. And I want to flip it around a little bit, and I would love to hear, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of getting out of my own way and finally publishing my first book, The Face Within, How to Change Your Unconscious Blueprint. And that was scary from a lot of levels. Like, I always thought I would write a book and publish it. That was from when I was little, I thought I would. But the unconscious blueprint is my own work. So that was scary, because what if people point out and say, what a load of rubbish, And my mum was dying when I was actually finishing off the book. So there's a lot of emotion pulled up. But it was also a way of sharing my message and sharing my expertise with people who can't work with me one-on-one for whatever reason. So get it out there, because it's full of exercises, it's full of case studies and quotes and exercises you can do to actually clear your head trash, which is what I call your mind rubbish. I teach you how to identify your unconscious blueprint, and I also teach you a process that you can change it yourself. So there's lots of really useful stuff in there, and it's a way of getting that out in the world to places that I can't physically, or people I can't work with one-on-one. So I'm very proud of myself for getting out of my own way and actually doing that. And I love the positive feedback I've been getting from people.
Awesome.
So,
Sounds like a great book. Yeah, I'd love to check it out.
Yep. Well, you can get it online. If you want an autographed copy, get it from my website, suelester.com. But, Amazon and Booktopia and Book Depository and all over, you can get it as an ebook or a printed copy.
Perfect. So, yeah, if you're interested, definitely check that out.
And I wrote it so it's for busy, stressed women in mind, was what I was thinking. So it's, it's easy to read and easy to apply. It's not a highly technical or sort of book that will put you to sleep when you're trying to work it out.
Awesome. Yeah, you definitely want something that you can keep reading and that's easy to follow.
Yeah, and you can always just pick it up, flick through, and it'll open up at the page for something that you need to read on that day. So you can do it like that as well.
All right. I want to share with you an idea that I have, which is that from the minute that you wake up in the morning and you go about your day as a mindset coach and healer, and you're helping clients, and whether you're spending time with your partner or your cats, and to the minute that you go to bed at night, what is it that you bring when you turn up?
Okay, I don't do my day as a mindset healing coach. I live my life as me. Perfect. So it doesn't matter whether I'm working or at home or out with friends, I'm me. So that's a little distinction I want to make. So it's not like I put on, okay, I'm on my coach hat now, and it's just who I am. So what do I bring? Probably present, like being present. So in other words, not time traveling in my head, not out in the past, not out in the future, unless I'm doing planning or whatever, but just being present with whoever I'm with.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're after?
That's perfect. Yeah. And that's, that's something that people are really lucky to have. And I think it's really important in, communities, having that person who's present just to sort of be there. And I think that's all part of, listening and helping others. It's a good skill to have.
And just know that not everyone in the world is going to like you. And that's okay, because that means you don't have to like everyone else in the world. It's really, frankly, some people are revolted.
That's a really good one for younger people. I know that's something I've had to really think about my whole life, is people pleasing and trying to be nice to people. But as I get older, I realize it's not important and I need to be myself.
Yeah, polite, respectful, but be yourself. Because, there's some people that no matter what you do, you're never, ever going to please them. Like, they're saying it's black, and so you agree with them, say it's black, and then suddenly it'll be white just because you said it was black. So that's just some people. So yes, be yourself, please yourself, be polite, be respectful, be present, be caring, and be the best you possible.
It's great. And what is it that inspires you every day?
I'm living the life that I'm creating. So it's up to me. If there's something I don't like in my life, it's up to me to change it, and I know that and accept it. So, and I love creating. So the days I love helping. So my one-on-one coaching days are my favourite days. And I'm losing track of the question there. So have I answered it?
Yep, no, that's perfect. It sounds like, being able to help people, being present, these are some of the things that inspire you.
Yeah, making a difference. But also, like I mentioned before, my work is my legacy. So I don't have children. Head trash got in the way with that. So that's why my work has become my legacy. But part of that is actually enjoying my life, because, maybe I've got multiple lives, maybe I haven't, but it pays to enjoy the one you've got at the moment. And, when I think about those suicidal thoughts before, how crazy, because, if I'm not happy with the lessons I'm getting this time round, why would I cut it short and then so I have to come back and relive them all over again? You want to persevere and get the learnings and then move forward to a better place rather than having to go through it all again.
Definitely. And who has been your biggest supporter, would you say, through everything?
Oh, okay. There's been a few actually, but my parents definitely, even though they didn't understand why I was doing things I did, as in leaving my husband and going off traveling and doing other things, they still believed in me and still accepted. Like my parents, even when I was asking for advice, they'd say, well, it's your life, your choice. You live it the way you want to live it. So that was invaluable. My partner, Peter, he believed in me more than any other man ever has. Like, that was just amazing, especially coming out of an abusive relationship. I mean, I had some healing time before meeting him. So he's been incredibly supportive of, launching the business and believing in me, even when I don't believe in myself. And I think I wrote that in the front of my book, because that's important, because sometimes people can see things about you that you can't see about yourself, as in positive things.
For sure, and we all need those people to support us, don't we?
And different friends along the way at different times. And that's another thing I learned along the way, is that your friends will change over the years. Some will still be there, but as you shift and grow and change, some people you grow closer to, and others you'll move away from. I'm having lunch earlier next week with high school friends that I haven't actually seen for 30 something years.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so
a strong relationship. Yeah.
I know. Well, I don't know. I don't know who they are now. So it'll be interesting to see whether we still click the way we used to. So yes, because, people I went to school with were keen on staying in our hometown and getting married and having kids, whereas I wanted to travel. So, you drift apart. And so keeping yourself small to stay with your current friends doesn't serve you either.
Yeah, evolving and changing is really important, definitely. And I think I love that about travel as well. So yeah, if you have the opportunity to do that in life, I think that's a really great idea.
Make the opportunity.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I remember driving the car and hearing an ad for Gold Lotto, and they were saying, what will you do when you win Lotto? Will you cruise along the Nile, go on African safari, or visit, I don't know, South America or something other? And I was thinking, well, actually, I've done all those things and I haven't won Lotto.
Yeah, you don't have to. You've made, obviously, the opportunity to be able to do that.
I made it. I mean, I
Mhm.
didn't, you know, while other people were buying houses, I was traveling. While other people were building careers, I was, you know, flitting here and flitting there and doing, because traveling was important to me. So if it's important to you, you'll find a way to make it happen. And if I'd waited for someone to come with me, I wouldn't have gone, and I would have ended up, you know, being quite bitter and horrible by now. So
Right, make the opportunity. I think that's great. That's really great advice.
give yourself permission.
Yeah. I just want to wrap up and say thank you so much, Sue, for your time today and for being on the podcast. And I'd love to acknowledge you for 3 things that I've found awesome for our audience today, which is your advice to be the best that you can be, and that it's really important to love learning and that it starts after school. I think that was a great message.
Well, it didn't start at school, but it definitely continues after.
Yep, continues after, and that it takes a few times to learn things, and that we can't expect ourselves to be perfect, and that once we fall down, we need to keep getting back up and keep trying things, and
Yep.
to not let other people dictate how we feel about ourselves.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So thank you, Anna. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Awesome. And before I let you go, what is the best way for our audience to connect with you?
Oh, okay. So my website is suelester.com. So there are free resources. There's a series of de-stress your mind video tips, 1 to 2 minutes, and they're techniques that you can use to de-stress. So feel free to grab those. And you can also connect with me on social media if you wish, Facebook and LinkedIn.
Perfect. And be sure to check out her book, The Face Within, How to Change
Your Unconscious
Your
Blueprint.
Unconscious Blueprint. Awesome. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining us